Coronavirus is sending shockwaves through the cryptocurrency market, burning investors who bet on assets like Bitcoin to be a safe haven. With us now is Jalak Jobanputra, who is the founding partner at Future Perfect Ventures. Great to have you as always with us, Jalak. Let's dive right in. Prices for Bitcoin down around 45% since the middle of February. Why is it correlated with the broader market drops that we've been watching?
Well, this is really the first test that we've had of the crypto markets being a safe haven, as has been part of the narrative since its inception in 2009. And what we're seeing is that it's not performing as a safe haven, as investors have moved out of the stock market, have moved even out of gold at certain points. We have seen that Bitcoin and the broader crypto markets have been highly correlated with that. I think we're in a huge time of uncertainty right now with an exogenous threat that's come our way into the macro environment. And we're still in a very immature market as far as the crypto narrative, and so frankly, I'm not that surprised given what we're seeing in the broader markets, and we'll see how it ends up performing in the longer term, or whether it continues to stay correlated as things start to settle down a bit.
I thought you brought up a really good point, though, right? I mean, traditional safe havens in general, gold and bonds, actually have been selling off all week, in addition to Bitcoin, right? And so really we see investors just trying to dump everything. I'm not so sure that this does entirely remove the thesis, right, or the narrative, as you were mentioning, that Bitcoin would be a perceived safe haven. But my question is, it was such more of a dramatic drop, right, than what we saw in other markets, like a gold, for instance. And so how does that change the narrative going forward?
Well, crypto and Bitcoin have been way more volatile than the broader markets, which is why traders and investors have some traders and some investors have flocked to it because of that volatility. So I think there's actually concern over the last few days, and it's really overnight that Bitcoin really started dropping significantly. But if you look at earlier this week, it was trading within a very narrow band, and it was less volatile than the equity markets. And what we're seeing is it's going back to its narrative of being a more volatile asset on the upside as well as the downside.
How does this downturn impact the ability for it to be seen as a common use coin, something that the everyday person can eventually see themselves utilizing?
Well, I think we started off with that narrative back in 2009 that it was going to be a payments mechanism. What we've seen because of the volatility, it then became more of a store of value, especially in regions where governments were demonetizing their currencies and there were large devaluations happening, or as a place for investors to put money in, an otherwise low yield environment where they could put a portion of their money and potentially see some high returns. So look, this is a to be determined story. We're only 10 years into this new asset class. And we needed to see how it would perform in this kind of macro shock. And we're certainly getting the answer now. And I think we're going to see a lot of government policies and interventions in the coming days and the coming weeks. And then we'll see. I'm very curious to see how it all settles out as a narrative, say 1 year from now.
Do you anticipate that VC firms will have the capacity to step in at all to try to stabilize the cryptocurrency, or any other forces for that matter?
Well, for those of us that are following some of the decentralized finance projects out there, such as MakerDAO, what we saw overnight was kind of a crisis happening around, the Maker cryptocurrency, and there's been interventions, government governance votes, I should say, not government, governance votes around the crypto to provide liquidity there. So we're seeing this experiment play out in real time, and see, we're going to see some carnage here, but just like the broader financial markets, we're going to see who's strong and can survive, and who has access to the capital. So I'm not sure that will happen for Bitcoin, but I think if you look at venture and some of the decentralized finance projects, we may see some some more capital going in to help stabilize